Hey guys, welcome to the channel. This is part 1 of What If Naruto is Ulquiorra. If you guys enjoy this what if, then comment down below and let me to let go of the video is 100 likes, so like this video, let me that you're interested in the series and you want the next part, then go ahead and check out the other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave, also share the video with your friends and link in the description. So let's go. What was there to say about Ulquiorra Schiffer? Not much unless you knew him. Knew of his past life before his death and becoming a hollow Basto Lord class to eventually become a member of the Espada. Of being ranked the 4th strongest among them with a calculating mind and held no emotions on his face to give away anything he might have felt. Even Aizen didn't know about his past, or if he did, kept it to himself. The rogue captain class Shinigami was like that in many aspects. Always knowing when to talk to someone about something, but never anything too personal, and made sure such secrets stayed between specific parties involved with no one else knowing unless he wanted them to know. Kill Ulquiorra. Should I kill this one too? Is this one trash? It doesn't matter, Yami. They are all trash to me. Even the ones Lord Aizen is interested in are trash. Just interesting trash that may hold some form of value to him. Besides, we have more pressing business to attend to than deal with the likes of these humans. In truth, Ulquiorra hated humans deep within his very being, though he'd never show it, and thus no one could ask why he did. Why did he hate humans? Why did he call them trash? No one knew, except for Ulquiorra. Though even he kept those reasons locked away within the deep parts of his mind where they belonged, and to never to resurface again. Flashback back then. One Uzuamki Naruto was chained to a wall while sitting on a crude chair of sorts with seals on it and himself that prevented the use of chakra. It was a prison cell designed to hold S-class criminals of the highest level with no means to escape, and right now the blonde hero of Konoha was here. Or rather, Naruto should have been a hero of Konoha. Sadly, that was not the case, and to make it worse, the people he once trusted had put him here. It had happened after the Uchiha had been recovered during his traitorous backstabbing and leaving Konoha for Orochimaru with the sound 4 on the promise of more power. Naruto had been ordered to use excessive force to bring back Sasuke if the Uchiha had in fact resisted, and the boy did in fact resist. However, upon returning home victorious, the Uzumaki blonde found himself restrained, thrown away in this cell, and visited only by the Hokage, and his so-called sensei Hatake Kakashi. Neither of them had anything nice to say to him. Damn brat. How dare you do this to the Uchiha? Do you know how badly his body is damaged? Damn near killed him, said Tsunade, looking infuriated at the blonde. No more than he tried to do to me. Or did the scars of the Chidori become suddenly invisible to your eyes? Said Naruto, who got a backhanded fist to his face for his trouble, and while the Hokage had restrained from using her strength, it still hurt. I don't care about your injuries, brat. You are a Jinchuriki. You're expendable. An asset meant to be used and then thrown away when there was no further use for something like you, said Tsunade, glaring at the boy, who just smiled despite the bruise on his face, and blood running down the side of his mouth. One or two of his teeth felt loose. So that's how it is, huh? Throwing me away like a broken weapon, huh? I can't help but wonder, what would your family think of you now? And if any of them would spit in your face? Said Naruto before being hit with another blow to his face that did knock out a few of his teeth. Shut your mouth, brat. I've had enough of listening to the, what would my family do in my place, speeches trash like you. You disgust me, said Tsunade, seeing Naruto still trying to keep that grin on his face. So what happens to me now, Hokage-sama? I stay here the rest of my natural life? Or am I going to die on your orders just to appease the masses? Said Naruto, giving her the, I don't give a damn, look that made the woman even more infuriated. That's being decided right now, but chances are, you'll die, and I'm going to see that it's extremely painful, said Tsunade before leaving the room. Then Kakashi came in a few days later. Haven't touched your food, I see, said Kakashi, seeing the so-called food made normal garbage look like a feast fit for a king. Would you eat it in my position? It's healthier for me to just starve. Why are you here, Hatake? My life is more enjoyable without you in it, said Naruto, seeing the man's one-eye frown at him. I'm here to let you know your punishment has been decided by the Hokage. You are to be killed publicly in the execution square in front of everyone, and being branded as a traitor to the league for hurting the Uchiha, said Kakashi, seeing Naruto nodding with no surprise on his face. I already knew that. Now tell me something I don't know, said Naruto, seeing Kakashi's eye narrow again. Uchiha Sasuke is going to kill you himself in order to get the next stage of the Sharingan to further ensure he stays loyal to the village, said Kakashi, seeing Naruto think about it for a second before letting out a cruel laugh, which shocked the Junin, and the man now wondered if the boy had lost what was left of his mind. That's one hell of a joke you just told Hatake. Sasuke getting the next level of his oh so precious Sharingan, said Naruto, laughing some more before Kakashi grabbed him by the throat and squeezed tightly. It's not a joke, demon brat. You will give Sasuke the means to have the next level, or I will make sure you feel my wrath even in death, said Kakashi before slamming the boy's head back against the wall and made Naruto see scars. Careful, Hatake. If you kill me before my official execution, you're going to deny Sasuke his wish, and ruin things for everyone, said Naruto, seeing Kakashi trying to keep what short fuse of a temper he had in check. Just do us all a favor, Naruto, die with some dignity. At least that way you can remove some of the stain you put on the village. Considering what you are, said Kakashi before leaving the room, but not before Naruto said one last thing, and made the Junin freeze in place. What I am, Hatake, is a boy scorned for what I have inside of me, and nothing more. You, on the other hand, my so-called sensei, are trash. In fact, according to the so-called code you preached to Team 7 about, you along with everyone in Konoha currently dancing to the tune of those on high, or worse than trash, and when you die, hell awaits you with all the demons there waiting to take a piece out of your ass, said Naruto, laughing at the Junin, who only glared at him, and then walked away. And trying to ignore Naruto's cruel laugh that echoed into the hall. Then the day of his execution came. The people in the village came to the execution square, trying to see the demon brat finally die, and at the hands of the Uchiha no less. Naruto inwardly joked to the Kyuubi that if Tsunade was really smart, she'd sell tickets to this, and make a fortune to pay off her debts owed. The Kyuubi laughed at the joke before telling the boy how it was an honor to die in the body of someone with a spine and not cowering in the face of death. I'm going to miss our conversations, kid, said Kyuubi, while the boy just smiled and ended their mental link with each other. Time to die, loser. Don't worry though, as your death will bring me one step closer to achieving my goal of killing Itachi, and one day, becoming Hokage. Wasn't that your dream? I hope you don't mind if I take that too, said Sasuke, grinning at Naruto, as he got his Chidori ready, and the crowd cheering for the Uchiha to kill the blonde. Sasuke, you can have the dream, as I'd rather be dead than be Hokage of these idiots, and I'd rather be dead than live another minute seeing your ugly duck-butted hairstyle with your belief that everyone is inferior to you. So get it over with, you bastard. Unless, of course, you're afraid, said Naruto, knowing how to bait the Uchiha by attacking the boy's ego. I'll show you who's afraid, said Sasuke before running right at Naruto and slammed the Chidori into Naruto's chest that pierced the boy's heart while looking the blonde right in the eye. One last thing before I die, Tem. You told me in our fight that in order to achieve the power you wanted, your best friend has to die, and you said I was your best friend. Well, let me give you some news to this grand plan of yours in getting those eyes through my death, Tem. I'm not your best friend. I never was. You called me loser, a nothing, and basically claimed I'm inferior to you. Maybe I am all those things, but it is through those things that I deny you the means to achieve those eyes, and laugh at your lost opportunity to gain what you've wanted from the start, said Naruto, laughing at the shocked look on the Uchiha's face, and waited until death took him to see Sasuke had not acquired the next level of the Sharingan. In his last act in living and into death, Uzuamki Naruto had won against Uchiha Sasuke. Then all went dark. And as time passed, deep within the dark abyss of Hawako Mundo, one Ulquiorra Schiffer was born in the form of a Vasto lord, and soon came into the service of Sosuke Aizen's army when turned into an Arrancar. In his time serving in Aizen's army, Ulquiorra had found more purpose in being an Espada than he ever did being alive, and human back during the days of being Uzumaki Naruto. In fact, his time as an Espada had made him feel humans were horrible creatures, and were nothing more than trash that should be disposed of before they stink up the world they lived in. How that happened was mostly up to him, so long as it didn't conflict with Aizen's own orders. What would you have me say? Don't worry, I'm sure he's still alive. Ridiculous. I am not here to comfort you. I don't understand why are you so fixated on life and death. At any rate, your friends will soon be annihilated. So what if that's one step closer? They should have seen this coming from the start. If they couldn't see it coming, the fault lies in their own foolishness. Laughing them off as a group of idiots would be sufficient. Why can't you do that? If it were me, and my friends entered Hueco Mundo without first gauging their strength, I'd be infuriated by their stupidity. Slap. It was when Inoue Orihime slapped him that something inside of the Espada stirred long dormant within him. For a moment, a different face appeared where the girls had been, and it made the Arrancar frown inside as to who it was. She seemed familiar to him, but it never could truly surface within his mind, and Ulquiorra wondered who the other girl was that he saw. His wonder lasted for a span of a few seconds. It was immaterial to the here and now. Then the fights with Kurosaki Ichigo came. The Shinigami had impressed Ulquiorra to an extent. A sense of amusement if you will, as the boy kept rising to fight him, and not giving up. Something to do with the human's heart, as he often heard. Absurd really. Even if Ichigo reminded the Arrancar of a time long ago when another boy with similar spiky hair, similar hair color, and sheer determination in his eyes to try taking on stronger people than himself regardless of the odds. That part of the Espada's memories came and went with the wind that blew through Hueco Mundo while fighting the boy. Maybe that was why he struck Ichigo in the chest the first time with his hand directly into his heart. Was it to cement some form of respect? Brotherhood that the two would now share after the boy lost to him? It didn't matter. What mattered was the boy met his end or lived to never oppose him or Aizen ever again. Either way it didn't matter to the number 4 in rank Espada. And then that girl interfered. Twice. It was the second time Ulquiorra fought Ichigo did his memories of the past resurfaced, seeing himself in Ichigo when the Espada had been alive, becoming what he was never allowed by those he deemed trash in his past life, and once again saw a girl's face replace Orihime's own. Memories of that girl soon surfaced of a girl his age, back when he was still human, seeing her smile, blushing, and not hating him like the others did. I see. This. Yes. This thing in my hand is the heart. It was then Ulquiorra finally began to understand what the heart was. Even if he was too little too late to enjoy it. Or so he thought. Welcome Ulquiorra Schiffer, said a powerful voice from behind the Espada, making the Arrancar turn to see a glowing white entity that screamed power. It made Aizen seem like a low-class hollow in comparison. You are Kami, said Ulquiorra since he felt it could be no other. Correct. I have brought you here before me with an offer, said Kami seeing the pale-skinned Espada look at him with a raised eyebrow. An offer. Interesting. Please continue, said Ulquiorra since he didn't expect this at all. I know of your past, young one. I know who you were before becoming this form that now stands in front of me. I wish to offer you the chance to return to your world you once called home, said Kami seeing Ulquiorra narrow his eyes slightly before looking away from the deity. No. I decline. There is nothing in that world I could want. I have long since let go of my connection to that place and that world. I could care less if the world was destroyed and the trash there choked on their own blood. They deserve anything bad that happens to them, said Ulquiorra before walking away in the hopes Kami would just send him into hell or someplace where the Espada could be away from such things. Only to find himself staring at one of the secret shrines at the Hyuga compound where members of the clan go to mourn those they love, whether they be friend, family, and or lover lost due to tragic circumstances. In front of this particular shrine was a woman with long dark cascading hair, wearing a bulky jacket, and pants of light purple color. The woman's back was to him with her head down, but in doing so, it allowed the Espada's eyes to widen at the sight of the picture, and then look at the woman praying. Naruto-kun, I miss you so much. Every day I pray you are happy. That you are in heaven with your family. Knowing that despite everything this village has done to you, the life on the other side hasn't been cruel, and can be at peace knowing no one can cause you any more harm. I only wish that I had been able to visit you those 3 years ago, if only for a second, to tell you how I felt. How despite everyone hating you for the Kyuubi, I wasn't like them, and how I loved you. I still do love you. No matter what went wrong, you overcame the odds, and beat everyone at their own game. Uchiha Sasuke is still trying to find a way to get the next level of the Sharingan in order to beat his brother and curses you to this day in denying him. My father wishes me to marry soon, but I told him there is only one man I wished to marry, to have children, to grow old with, and that person is dead. He wasn't amused and something tells me my father wishes to change my views on things when it comes to love. I don't know how long it will be before I can see you again Naruto-kun, but I can wait, and when the time comes to join you on the other side, I will finally tell you how I feel. Believe it, said Hinata, as she finished her prayer, and quickly put the picture of the boy away knowing that no one could see it since no one in the village was left that loved Naruto anymore. You were not meant to die that day. A mistake on my part, which is why I am giving you this chance to regain some of what was taken from your life, and a chance to fix your broken world, said Kami seeing Ulquiorra stare at Hinata's form walking away and hiding the picture inside the bulky jacket. If I go back, what will change about me? Said Ulquiorra seeing Kami smiling back at him for at least considering the offer. You will be alive. Your original body has long since been lost so you must remain in your Arrancar body. However, you will be alive again, said Kami seeing the Espada put his hand to where his heart would be if it wasn't for the hole there that signified he was a hollow. Send me back then. I just hope you understand people will die at my hands should I wish to kill them, said Ulquiorra seeing Kami nod. I don't expect you to turn into a pacifist Ulquiorra, said Kami seeing the Espada nod his head and had an almost amused smile on his face. So I'm coming home. How amusing, thought Ulquiorra before he was consumed in a bright light and the next thing the Espada knew, he was back in the elemental countries. Oh yes. Things would become amusing very soon. Ulquiorra looked at the vast desert of wind country that led to Suna, as he felt it was the opposite of Hueco Mundo in many aspects, and yet the same in others. The cruel winds, sand everywhere, and the many different creatures that had long since learned to survive the harsh environmental hazards it held for many years. The former Espada didn't care for it though, as he had no interest in any of these things, or their similarities to the cold dark realm of the hollow world. The first thing Ulquiorra did upon finding himself here in the elemental countries was to see if all his powers were indeed still with him and did some discreet testing. Everything he had been in terms of being an Arrancar, much less an Espada was still intact, and had used it in terms of getting around the different places of the world using sonido. It was almost amusing to see the looks people gave him in cities and in towns while making sure the hole still in his chest kept out of sight. The last thing Ulquiorra wanted was for some kind of unnecessary panic attack from some moron humans, who then ran to some ninja, and brought different people onto his back. Not yet. During his time wandering for the past few weeks, Ulquiorra Schiffer saw that not much had changed in this world, which wasn't really a surprise since it was roughly over 3 years to the several hundred that took place in Hueco Mundo, and realized time worked with significant difference. Again, the former Espada didn't care about that, as he had no real interest in time, and relativity to the different realms of the universe. And now here he was, just a few hundred feet away from Suna, and already there was a smell in the air of humans being the pathetic trash he had always called them in the past. Of course, the Arrancar knew it wasn't anyone from Suna, as he knew Gaara would never let anyone boss him around, and sink the village if they tried since the sand here was one big hammer for Gaara to swing should he get pissed off. Of that, Ulquiorra remembered that much about the one-tailed Jinchuriki, and knew if there was one place he should go to see a long-lost friend it was Suna. So why did he get this feeling something bad had just happened to Gaara? Using Sonido once again to further decrease the gap between himself to Suna, the former member of the Espada found that the village had just recently been attacked, as indicated by the tall tale signs of smoke seen from several places, and stopped when he was soon surrounded by Suna shinobi. Each of them armed, looking at him suspiciously knowing he could be an enemy, as they had never seen someone like him before in terms of his choice of clothing, complexion, and overall form. Identify yourself, said a Suna shinobi to Ulquiorra's right. I'm here to see Sabaku no Gaara. Judging by the smoke behind your walls when I was traveling here, I came at a bad time, said Ulquiorra before he looked behind the Suna shinobi in front of him to see Hatake Kakashi, Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, and some pale-skinned boy that could almost rival the Arrancar himself. With the exception of the fake smile of course. Who are you? Said Sakura, as she saw Ulquiorra just stare at her with his unreadable face, and saw Sasuke out of the corner of her eyes narrow them at the former Espada since his face looked similar to Itachi in terms of being emotionless. My name is Ulquiorra Schiffer. I came to this village to speak to Sabaku no Gaara. What has happened here? said Ulquiorra, as he kept the tugging feeling in the back of his mind to obliterate the four-leaf shinobi from existence, and make himself a target. The Kazekage has been kidnapped by the Akatsuki. We're here to help save Gaara at the request of his siblings since they need superior shinobi to do what they clearly can't do themselves, said Sasuke with a smirk in hopes of impressing this man before them and to make himself known to foreigners entering Suna. So Gaara is the Kazekage now, huh? I must congratulate my old friend when I save him myself, said Ulquiorra before turning around having already sensed where the Akatsuki members had taken Gaara. Wait, you said you were friends with him. Since when? Said Tamari having walked in on their conversation. Some time ago. It's been a while and I'm sure he doesn't recognize me. However, I know after we talk, he'll recall who I am, and embrace me in friendship as I did so long ago with him, said Ulquiorra and walking away with his hands in his pockets like he always did before vanishing from sight. What kind of jutsu was that? Said Sakura while looking at Kakashi and saw he was also confused since he had never seen anything like it either. Sasuke was seething at not being able to use his Sharingan to copy it. We'll find out more about him later. Come on you three. We need to track down the two Akatsuki members and save Gaara before that new guy does, said Kakashi, as he felt a cold shivering sensation crawl up his spine, and the Junin felt like he had just missed something important. But what was it? With Ulquiorra. It wasn't hard for the Arrancar to find the two Akatsuki members and their little hideaway. They had to conduct whatever it is they were doing in the sealed area with Gaara. In all honesty, Ulquiorra didn't care what they did so long as it was stopped before it was even started, and found the cave that the two were in with Gaara with seals on the boulder of a door to block any unwanted guests from stopping them. An unwanted guest was exactly the kind of person Ulquiorra was at the moment, as he had made it a profession during his time serving Aizen, and like any unwanted guest he did what anyone in his position would do. He grabbed the boulder with the seals on it and pulled it out of its position with it flying high into the air easily as someone would throw a kid's toy ball with the greatest of ease. The two members of the Akatsuki looked up in shock, as did the other members of the Akatsuki from their assigned projections to see the Arrancar entering the natural cave of a room, and saw Gaara on the ground with his demon about to be extracted. And who the hell are you? Do you know him, Sasori? Said Deidara, as he glared at the Arrancar, and wondered if this guy was Itachi's twin. The two had the same damn stare. My name is unimportant. I don't give out things like that to trash. I am here to retrieve Sabaku no Gaara from your care. Nothing more, said Ulquiorra while the hunched over one named Sasori laughed like he was joking. Do you realize who we are? How strong the two of us in this room here are? Said the hunched over one named Sasori with the Arrancar simply staring at them unimpressed. You seem to be under the impression that I care or that I should fear you for your skills. Why is it that human trash like you has this belief that you are better than everyone else? It seems to be something that I have yet to truly understand when it comes to the more arrogant side of your species. Though in all honesty, I would rather kill such pathetic pieces of trash, than try to understand them, and remove the problem altogether, said Ulquiorra seeing the shadowy members of the Akatsuki look at him like he had grown two heads. What the fuck are you talking about? Said one of the shadowy projections. As I said before, I don't give out things like that to trash, and I intend to kill anyone that stands in my way of retrieving Sabaku no Gaara, said Ulquiorra walking further into the room before suddenly appearing to Sasori and struck the man in the neck with enough force to knock the head clean off. With the man inside of the puppet to come out while the body Sasori was just in fell over ironically like a puppet with its strings cut. How did he move that fast? Thought Deidara while Ulquiorra picked up Gaara and then quickly appeared near the entrance exit. Deidara. Sasori. Stop him now. Said the shadowed projection that was in the middle of the others while Sasori revealed his puppets and Deidara was making bombs with the mouths in his hands. Right. Prepare to go boom. Said Deidara grinning evilly at Ulquiorra while the former Espada just raised his right hand's index finger with a small ball of green energy forming there much to the surprise of the Akatsuki members watching this. Sero, said Ulquiorra simply before firing his attack at them, and it was only through substitution did the two manage to escape. Using Sonido to once more land on solid sandy ground, Ulquiorra put Gaara down just before moving his head slightly to dodge the blade aimed at his head from one of the many puppets Sasori had summoned to aid him in battle. To the Arrancar's right, Deidara was forming his explosives into shapes, and waiting for the right time to strike, knowing that Gaara could not be harmed in order to extract the demon from the young K's cage. Die fool, said Sasori, as his small army of puppets moved to either kill Ulquiorra, or move him away from Gaara so Deidara could blow the man up. I don't take request from trash like you, said Ulquiorra before blanketing the area with a small fraction of his spiritual pressure to freeze them both in place, as the former Espada disappeared from the puppet master's sight, only to appear behind him, and take his head clean off with one swipe of his hand. In reveal, the man was in fact a living puppet. My turn, said Deidara now that the strange invisible weight was off of him while high in the sky on his clay bird, and saw just as he was about to unleash them saw Ulquiorra was nowhere to be found. Yes, it is, said Ulquiorra making Deidara turn around, and was shocked beyond belief to see the Arrancar standing on his clay bird pointing his index finger once again at him with the green ball of energy there once more. Oh crap, thought Deidara while staring at his death. Sero, said Ulquiorra before firing, and this time hit dead on. When Ulquiorra no longer sensed the blonde-haired Akatsuki member, he descended to the ground, and stood over Sabaku no Gaara's form. Reaching down, he checked for a pulse, and found one on his long-lost friend before turning to see Leaf Shinobi along with an elderly woman that was clearly a native of Suna. You, said Sakura pointing an accusing finger at Ulquiorra, who just ignored her, and made the pink-haired Kunoichi even angrier. The Arrancar remained silent at her dramatic pointing while watching the elderly woman check on Gaara, a concerned yet guilty look in her eyes, and knew she had some kind of hand in the cage's life in growing up. Turning away from her, the Arrancar saw the Leaf Shinobi were itching for a fight, and Sasuke had wanted to get answers about the man's abilities. Ulquiorra easily deduced it was to get more power in order to kill Itachi, which the Arrancar could care less about, and began walking away. I thought you wanted to talk to Gaara, said Kakashi calmly while the pale man just stopped to look at him with the wind blowing his white trench coat in an intimidating fashion. I do, and I will. Just not around trash from the Leaf, said Ulquiorra seeing Sasuke and Sakura draw some kunai while preparing for a fight. Take that back, said Sakura in a demanding screeching tone. Why should I? It's the truth, said Ulquiorra seeing Sasuke activate his Sharingan and Kakashi scowling at him. Careful who you insult, Ulquiorra-san. Doing so to an Leaf Shinobi is not good for your health, said Kakashi in an authoritative voice while Ulquiorra himself just looked at him with his usual unreadable face. This is not your country, Leaf Shinobi. I can insult you here in this one all I want. If you have a problem with hearing the truth in my words, I suggest you leave this place, and do not act superior to your betters, said Ulquiorra seeing the Junin narrow his eye at him. What did you say, loser? Said Sasuke before going through hand signs for a fire jutsu. Sasuke, don't. This guy just took down 2's class missing nin and doesn't even look winded in the slightest, said Kakashi, as he saw Lady Chiyo still hovering protectively over Gaara, and knew the cage would awaken soon. You. The one responsible for saving Gaara. It's clear to me that you have some form of speed ability that surpasses anyone here. Can you take him back to Suna? Said Chiyo, as it was the only explanation for Gaara being successfully rescued from the Akatsuki, and for some reason Shukaku was not in the mood to possess him. It was almost as if Shukaku knew something was here, near Gaara with far more power than itself, and didn't wish to provoke that entity. Of course, said Ulquiorra while giving nothing away in his voice before picking up Gaara, as he didn't want to be around these four-leaf shinobi any more than he had to for the second time today, and was gone a second later. The Hokage will not approve of you trusting the cage to a stranger over as Lady Chiyo, said Kakashi seeing the old woman glare at him. I do not serve the Hokage of Konoha. I serve the cage, said Chiyo before heading back to Suna with the others following behind her. Suna moments later. Tamari was happy to see her brother was alive despite being unconscious, as Ulquiorra Schiffer placed Gaara on the hospital bed, and walked over to the window with his usual emotionless face giving nothing away. As he looked out the window, the Arrancar was thinking about many things that filled his mind in regards to the Leaf, the Akatsuki, and how to handle them now that he had made an enemy of the latter of the two. Thank you for saving Gaara, said Tamari at last before bowing slightly in front of him just as Gaara started to stir. Where am I? Said Gaara looking at his sister apparently talking to the dark-haired pale-skinned stranger with green eyes. In Suna's hospital. This man here saved you from the Akatsuki, said Tamari smiling at Gaara and sat down next to him. Who is he? Said Gaara seeing Tamari's smile turn into a frown. You don't know. He said you were friends, said Tamari turning to see Ulquiorra not even looking back at them. I do not know him Tamari. I have never seen him before now, said Gaara, which made Tamari's eyes widen in shock, grab her iron fan next to the bed, and went into a defensive stance to protect her brother. Who are you? Said Tamari with a hardened gaze at the Arrancar. A friend, said Ulquiorra like it was the most simplest thing in the world. You're lying, said Tamari seeing Ulquiorra turn his head slightly to look at her. Am I? How? Said Ulquiorra before turning fully to face her. Gaara has never seen you until now, said Tamari while Gaara looked at the Arrancar with calculating eyes. I see. You seem to be misinformed on some things. Gaara has never seen this version of myself until now. That much is true. However, we did meet at 1.3 years ago, in the Leaf Village during the events of the Chunin exams, and was the first person to ever defeat you in combat, said Ulquiorra seeing Gaara's eyes widen in shock and so did Tamari's at his words. It can't be. Uzuamki Naruto died at the hands of Uchiha Sasuke. You look nothing like Uzuamki Naruto, said Gaara, as he had been so angry with Konoha, but politics at the time had demanded the now Kazekage keep the newly remade alliance with the Leaf, and not break it once more. Yes I know, said Ulquiorra seeing Tamari was still on guard against him. Not that she could hurt him. Prove to me your Uzuamki Naruto, said Gaara seeing the Arrancar just look at them for a moment before opening up his white trench coat and parting it to reveal the hole where his heart had been. This should suffice, said Ulquiorra seeing the surprise of their faces of seeing a hole in his body that went all the way through and the fact he was walking around because of it. What about the past? Tell us something only we would know, said Tamari, as she still wanted more proof, and a hole in the chest wouldn't cut it. I summoned the boss toad summons by the name of Gamabunta to help combat you in your one-tailed state, said Ulquiorra seeing Gaara nod slowly since no one really knew about that. I see. You are him, said Gaara without a doubt in his voice with Tamari putting her fan away seconds later though she was still on edge. So, what now? Said Tamari seeing the man formerly Uzuamki Naruto not answer and head for the door before stopping. Whatever alliance you have with the Leaf, I suggest you terminate it immediately, and seek the means for this village to stand on its own 2 feet without them for support. Do you really want to stay allies with a village that betrayed me Gaara? Betrayed me for the betrayer I was sent to bring back. Said Ulquiorra seeing Gaara narrow his eyes and knew the memory of that moment 3 years ago burned forever in the Kazecage's brain. No. I don't. The wind. Daimyo will not be happy if we try to, said Gaara seeing his old friend nod once. If that's the case, tell him of the Leaf's way of treating Jinchuriki for accomplishing their missions, and the truth they demand you keep secret 3 years ago about my death. See how responsive he'll be then, said Ulquiorra before leaving the room. Within the hour, the Leaf shinobi had returned to see Gaara was sitting up in his bed, and appeared to be deep in thought about something. When Kakashi tried to greet the young Kazekage, but the instant the Junin did, the red-haired man glared intensely at them in a way two among the group of Leaf hadn't seen in 3 years, and it was still frightening then as it was now. Is something wrong Kazekage-sama? Said Kakashi seeing the intense look from Gaara. Yes. Tell your Hokage that the alliance between our villages is now over, said Gaara seeing the shock on their faces. What? Why? Said Sakura seeing Tamari stand up now and put a hand on her hip. Does he need a reason Pinky? You have 6 hours to get out of Suna before we declare you hostile and throw your asses in prison for interrogation, said Tamari seeing the girl glare at him. How dare you? Do you realize the consequences that will happen between our villages for threatening me? An Uchiha elite. We'll go to war, said Sasuke seeing Tamari smirk at him. Bring it. You think the Wind Daimyo will be so friendly with yours after we tell him a few things about your village you demanded we kept secret? Hardly, said Tamari, as she saw them go pale, and wide-eyed at the implication of what particular secret that would be exposed. And what brought about this sudden spark of courage? Said Kakashi seeing Gaara's eyes narrow and killer intent fill the room. Uzuamki Naruto's memory and your dishonoring of it, said Gaara in an icy tone that made Kakashi once again feel the shiver that ran up his spine at something being amiss. What? That loser. You're weeping still over him. said Sasuke before the killer intent in the room became oppressively thick and Gaara was only letting them live due to his weakened condition. Get out of Suna. Get out or I will kill you, said Gaara with his tone of voice and killer intent proving he intended to carry out the threat. Regardless of how weak he was feeling right now. You're going to regret this, said Sakura before they left. Not likely, said Temari, as she knew her brother well, and knew that Naruto had been his first real friend who was taken away from him. Gaara had never gotten over the loss and had to play nice with the leaf then due to all the things happening around them. Now there was no need to play nice, there was no need to be civil with those that turned his stomach, and there was no need to honor an alliance with a village that had no honor. The cage did what? Yelled Tsunade at Kakashi's team after they gave their report about the incident in Suna with the Akatsuki and the newcomer that saved the cage. The cage has declared the alliance Suna has with the Leaf Village is over Hokage-sama. When we asked why, he claimed to be doing it in the memory of Uzuamki Naruto, and then blasted us with killer intent to further prove to us that he means business, said Kakashi seeing the woman narrow her eyes at him. And what of this newcomer? This Ulquiorra Schiffer, said Tsunade seeing Kakashi not meet her eyes for a second to gather his thoughts. It's hard to say where he stands in all of this. There's more than a good chance he had a hand in the cage's decision to cancel the alliance with the Leaf, but his reason for even saving Sabaku no Gaara is still a mystery, and the story he gave when arriving at Suna's gates doesn't make sense either, said Kakashi. Seeing Tsunade nod at that. That's true. We know for a fact Gaara didn't have friends growing up. His siblings don't count either. So who is this person that claims to be Gaara's friend? Said Tsunade, as she leans back in her chair deep in thought, and saw Kakashi didn't have the slightest clue. Whoever he is, it's clear the man is dangerous, and should be approached with extreme caution, said Kakashi knowing anyone with the power to take down 2S class missing nin was someone to be think twice about fighting. I'll get Jiraiya on it. If anyone can find information about this man, it's him. Dismissed, said Tsunade seeing the team leave and Jiraiya appeared seconds after they were gone. I'm way ahead of you Tsunade Haim. This guy has made a lot of noise when he killed 2 members of the Akatsuki and everyone is trying to find out everything there is to know about him. You. Me. The leader of the Akatsuki. Even Orochimaru is looking for dirt on him, said Jiraiya before getting off the window and sat in the chair opposite of Tsunade. And what did you and they find out? Said Tsunade seeing Jiraiya slouch in defeat. Nothing. Absolutely, nothing. Said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade's surprise. Nothing. Nothing at all. Said Tsunade seeing Jiraiya nod. Aside from the fact this guy is a friend of Sabaku no Gaara, there is not a single piece of information on this Ulquiorra Schiffer, and you know how dangerous a person is if you don't know anything about them when it comes to our profession, said Jiraiya seeing the woman nod since having information was a shinobi's greatest asset and the lack of it was a means to be destroyed. So it's like this guy dropped right out of the sky. This guy is practically a free agent and any village that recruits him will become significantly more powerful, said Tsunade, as she knew there were lone wolf cells throughout the elemental countries, and were on occasion recruited to serve different villages. This Ulquiorra Schiffer could be one of them and could bring a lot to the table of the village he served. I don't think he's interested in joining a shinobi village. He could have joined Suna, but didn't all the same, and just left without so much as asking much less hearing an offer, said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade consider this and agreed with his assessment of that fact. Still, there is always a chance he could be hired for a job instead of us, and that in itself is bad for business for the village. I want all the Anbu teams that encounter Ulquiorra Schiffer to capture him and if he causes too much trouble, kill him with enough of his body left behind to study, said Tsunade seeing Jiraiya nod knowing the man's body could prove beneficial if studied. I'll get right on it, said Jiraiya with a small smirk on his face though it didn't fully reach his eyes. There is something on your mind, said Tsunade seeing Jiraiya heading to the window. It's nothing. Just thinking, said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade raise an eyebrow at him. About, said Tsunade wishing he'd clarify. The past. About. Naruto, said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade's eyes narrow now. What about him? Said Tsunade while seeing Jiraiya sigh. It's just, do you ever regret what happened? That we betrayed him, his father, mother, sensei, said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade scowl at him. No, why should you? Said Tsunade coldly seeing Jiraiya sigh again. He is our godson Tsunade. His parents entrusted him to us in the event of his death. We neglected him and then sentenced him to death for completing the mission given to him. Your own grandmother was an Uzuamaki and the first Jinchuriki of Kyuubi for Kami's sake, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade slam her hand on the desk to silence him from speaking out any further. Enough. So what if we left him to his own devices? All my life, I've been expected to be this understanding woman, and follow the path that the rest of my family took in life since Konoha has found him. Look where it got them, Jiraiya. They're all dead. Every single member of the Uzumaki clan is gone. So is mine. I'm the last member of the Senju clan and I'm going to make decision that I want to make while Hokage. Not my grandfather. Not my granduncle. Not Dan. Not Naoki. Not Minato. Not Kashina. And certainly not Sarutobi Sensei. I will decide what I feel is right, and we both damn well know that Kyuubi is long gone thanks to what Minato did, so why should we care if the boy died so long as several major threats don't come after us? Said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya frown. I'm not following, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade's eyes narrow further. The Akatsuki will no longer attack us, Jiraiya. We can now focus on Orochimaru and Kabuto. You said it yourself, the Shinigami seal was not 100% safe when it came to Naruto, and the use of so much of Kyuubi's power fighting Sasuke weakened it considerably. The brat had to die and remove the demon from the village altogether so we could move on. The scar the Kyuubi has left on this village has finally been removed and I made it happen. Something none of the other Hokages had the courage to do in the first place. Said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya grimace. Did it have to be public? Brand him a traitor to the roof. Said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade shrug. I gave the people what they wanted. More support from them keep the councils in check, and it's not like the clan heads were against it either, said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya shake his head. Did you ever care about him? At all. I mean, I had my spy network, but I had to leave the village, and you left out of spite. Said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade smirk. The Uchiha's clan isn't the only one with a mean streak hidden beneath the surface, said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya let out an empty laugh. Clearly. Then again, you've always had a mean streak, and Kushina no doubt trusted you to use it against Naruto's enemies, not against him. Well, I just thought I would ask, and see what it was that drove you to it, said Jiraiya before leaving. Baka. Why should it matter now after 3 years? The brat is dead. Let the dumb fool rot in hell with the very demon sealed within his body, and let that be the end of it, thought Tsunade, as she ignored the picture behind her of the previous Hokages, and the feeling of them glaring at her for the betrayal of Uzumaki Naruto. As Tsunade told Jiraiya, she was done caring, and refused to care about things like that anymore. With Ulquiorra in Earth Country, the Arrancar was once again reminded of why he thought humans, or rather most humans, were trash in this world while watching things from above in the sky. Iwas and Bu were hunting 2 Jinchuriki from their village, who had gone into seclusion less than 6 months ago to master the demonic power sealed within their bodies, and not be persecuted by their so-called home. The group had just caught up to 2 with the taller one named Han and the red-haired with beard-faced man Roshi, telling the Anbu to leave them alone. To let them be alone to master their power, and that they would return soon after completing their objective. Iwas and Bu chose to ignore the request. We don't care what you Jinchuriki want. What matters is what the Tsuchikage wants, and right now he wants you to lock up while special seals are placed on you to ensure this doesn't happen again, said the Iwa Anbu captain with his weapon drawn, and the others with him followed in his movement. We do not wish to fight you. We are loyal shinobi of Iwa just as you are. Why are you making this difficult? Said Han, hearing them all chuckle at his words. Because we can. We like making things difficult for freaks like you. It doesn't matter how loyal you are to the Tsuchikage, you're still going to be treated like the filth you are, and there's not damn thing you can do about it, said another Anbu of lieutenant rank this time. They can't. But I can, said Ulquiorra from above before the thunderous weight of his spiritual pressure covered the area and saw both sides fall to their knees while the former Espada descended to the ground. Who are you? What are you? Said Han, as he was barely staying on his knees due to his demon using its chakra willingly to make the pressure more tolerable, and Roshi was doing the same. The Iwa Anbu were dead from their hearts stopping after the spiritual pressure crushed any form of life right out of them. I am something far beyond you two. Just as you two are far beyond those Iwa shinobi, said Ulquiorra before cutting off the spiritual pressure and then began to walk away. Wait, said Roshi, seeing the Arrancar stop and turn to look at them both. Please, take us with you, said Han, seeing the man before them raise an eyebrow. Just like that. You wish to follow me. I thought you two were loyal shinobi of Iwa. Said Ulquiorra, seeing the two slowly stand up and look at each other before looking back. We were, but it was when they were about to attack, right before you interfered, did we realize that our loyalty means nothing to the Tsuchikage, or the rest of the village. Please take us with you, said Roshi, bowing his head submissively at this powerful being before him. No. Where I go you cannot follow, said Ulquiorra, turning away from them and began to leave. Do you know of any place where we can go? Where we can be safe for the time being? Said Han, seeing the Arrancar stop walking once more, now staring into space while deep in thought. There is one place. There are no shinobi there, as it is a neutral country, or rather it was 3 years ago. I've been away for so long, but the people there understand what it is like to suffer from oppression as you did, and were freed of it by someone who was just like you. Go to Wave Country. It is there you will find the happiness you seek, and should you meet an old man named Tazuna, his daughter Tsunami with her son Inari, tell them their old hero from 3 years ago says hi, said Ulquiorra before he vanished via Sonido. What do you think he means by that? Said Han, seeing Roshi was just as puzzled. It doesn't matter. We can ask the people of Wave Country questions after we get there and deliver the message. Maybe it will shed some light on who that man is, said Roshi, seeing Han shake his head in disagreement. That wasn't a man. That was something else, said Han, as they now headed to Wave, and at a moderate pace. You sensed it too, said Roshi, seeing Han nod. He felt dark, twisted, and empty inside. Like how we have felt for years in Iwa, only it was more intense. As if he defines emptiness, said Han, seeing no other way to describe the Arrancar. Roshi could only nod in agreement. I was sometime later. What do you mean the entire Anbu team I sent after them was killed? Said the now angry Sandame Tsuchikage, seeing his granddaughter Kuritsuchi hold her gaze at him. It was as I just stated, Tsuchikage-sama. Each member of the squad sent after Roshi and Han were killed. However, from the looks of things, their deaths were not caused by either Han or Roshi using their abilities on them, said Kuritsuchi, as she was stumped by this turn of events, and saw the old man raise an eyebrow at her. What? Then how did they die? Said the Tsuchikage, seeing the woman was hesitant to answer him. From what we've been able to determine, they all died from their hearts stopping at the same time, and there is a bit more we learned when checking the area, said Kuritsuchi, seeing the Tsuchikage was shocked by this news. What? Said the Tsuchikage, seeing his granddaughter looking hesitant again. There was another set of footprints in the area. The problem is, they seemed to appear in front of Han and Roshi before walking away from them. The clearing they were in was large with few trees to leap on, and the landing from jumping from one of those trees would have caused skidding. All the evidence we have collected points to someone with the ability to either fly or is a master of gliding to the point of making a landing like with ease, said Kuritsuchi, seeing the Tsuchikage lean back against his chair. So it's someone with a strong wind affinity. A missing nin from Suna, or one of their loyal shinobi perhaps. Then again, such an affinity has been known to pop up in different villages from time to time, and the Sandame Hokage's son has it too, said the Sandame Tsuchikage, clearly puzzled by this. But not even Sarutobi Asuma has such a high level in wind affinity, and to use it to stop hearts, it's unheard of. Said Kuritsuchi, seeing the Tsuchikage nod in agreement. Yes. And by now, we would have received word from our spies in the leaf that Konoha had Han and Roshi in their custody. The same with the other villages and this Akatsuki organization that's been rumored to be hunting them. So if it wasn't the leaf or anyone else we know interfered, who did? Said Kuritsuchi, seeing the old man in front of her look slightly more aged. That's the frightening thing, my dear. We don't know anything about this person at all, and that's the most dangerous kind of foe there is, said Tsuchikage, wondered how he would be able to deal with this. So what do we do? Said Kuritsuchi, seeing the Tsuchikage shake his head, and would have answered if a sudden intense pressure struck them both with enough force to drop them to their knees. You can start by dying, said Ulquiorra Schiffer, as he walked into the room calmly, knowing his spiritual pressure was blanketing the entire village, and now everyone was struggling to live, much less breathe through the thickness of it all. Even if it was a small percentage of his actual power. Who are you? said Kuretsuchi while trying not to vomit with each passing second. The pale green-eyed man with the unreadable expression his face walked towards her. That is not your business, trash, said Ulquiorra, as he walked past her to the Sandame Tsuchikage, and picked the old man up by the throat before slowly squeezing it. Why are you doing this? Said the Sandame Tsuchikage, as he struggled to breathe, and seeing the Arrancar showing no emotions whatsoever. Because you are trash, said Ulquiorra before striking the man in the chest through the heart to form a perfect circle, pulled out his hand, flicked the blood away, and let the now dead Tsuchikage fall to the ground right in front of his granddaughter. Be bastard. You think we'll let you get away with this? You're dead. You just don't know it. Said Kuretsuchi, as she tried to get up, and fight this invisible weight that seemed to keep her down. It doesn't matter what you do. I could care less. You're trash. Your whole village is filled with trash that deserves to burn. Just like the leaf, said Ulquiorra, as he was walking out of the room, and slowly lessening the pressure. And what does the leaf have to do with any of this? Said Kuretsuchi, seeing the Arrancar stop and turn his head slightly to look at her through the corner of his eye. Everything. Said Ulquiorra before he was gone from her sight, and within seconds the invisible weight that held her down was gone. Lock down the village right now. The Tsuchikage has just been assassinated. Yelled Kuretsuchi through her radio transmitter, with the alarms soon blaring echoing throughout the village. By the time the village had been searched down to the smallest detail, it was clear that the intruder, assassin, had escaped their grasp, and far away from Iwa. Akatsuki HQ. Sometime later. It's been confirmed. The Tsuchikage is dead, said Pain, seeing Itachi nod. Yes. According to our spies, the late Sandame Tsuchikage's own granddaughter yelled it, and ordering the village into lockdown, said Itachi, seeing Pain nod. The Sandame Tsuchikage was old, but still strong. Who killed him? Said Kakuzu with curiosity in his voice. From the description given, it was the same man who killed Sasori and Deidara in Wind Country, said Itachi, seeing the shock on their faces. This is becoming a problem. What about Iwa's Jinchuriki? Said Pain, seeing Itachi look away from him before returning his gaze. They're not in Iwa or even in Earth Country. It's speculated this new foe took them away from their village before killing the Tsuchikage, said Itachi, seeing Pain narrow his eyes in anger at this change of events. Madara had assured him 3 years ago that even with the Kyuubi gone, the plan could still work, and that they just needed to be patient. Pain has assumed Madara spoke of the 9-tailed fox would reform its body again like the 3 tails was going to do shortly in the next few months, but didn't realize the extent as to what the Yondaime Hokage had done to make that impossible, and had to play the waiting game. Find them, Itachi. Kakuzu. Hidan. Hunt down the Nibi vessel. I want her here to extract the 2-tailed demon immediately, said Pain, making sure the tone in his voice left no room for arguing. They were in no position to argue. Hyuga compound. Hinata walked to the shrine once more, the picture of Naruto tucked away in her jacket, and was glad her father was out of the house on business elsewhere in the village. She didn't want him trying to surprise her again while making this pilgrimage to the shrine to pray for Naruto, even when he knew about this, and had told his daughter to stop. Hinata refused, which only served to anger her father even further, and then basically made it a command. Again, Hinata refused him a second time, and even challenged the man to a fight with a victory against Hiyashi, allowing the Hyuga heiress the right to visit the shrine to pray for Naruto's happiness in the afterlife. The loss to her father would be the exact opposite. To further ensure this was on the record, both Neji and Hanabi had been a witness to this event. They were also shocked to see Hinata come out victorious, fighting her father and making him honor the agreement. Still, it was a victory for Hinata, and more importantly, a victory for Naruto's soul. I know father wishes me to marry soon within a year's time, but I refuse to marry, and be with anyone other than Naruto-kun. I shall die pure just for him and to defy my clan if I must, thought Hinata, as she knew how her beauty was making the heads of many men turn to look at her, and try to make the Hyuga heiress swoon. They all failed miserably. Reaching the shrine, Hinata frowned at the sight of a note there, and saw it was addressed to her to read. Thinking it was some kind of trick or some would-be suitor trying to get her attention, she lazily opened it before reading its contents. And proceeded to drop the note with a gasp escaping her mouth at the single sentence written on it. Thank you for praying for me, Hinata-chan. Naruto-kun. Thought Hinata, as she quickly picked up the note again, and using her eyes saw it was his handwriting without any signs of the writing being a forgery. High above her, Ulquiorra Schiffer watched the Hyuga heiress looking down at the once shy girl, who would blush, and press her fingers together if Uzuamki Naruto was ever mentioned in a single sentence. He had not seen her until now, but even from his current position, the Arrancar could tell Hinata was a knockout, and any guy would be an idiot to break her heart. One day Hinata-chan. One day we will be together again and maybe, just maybe, both of us can fill the emptiness in our souls together. Thought Ulquiorra while wondering if she would even accept him as he was now before vanishing from the area knowing there were other matters to attend to. A pair of snakes hiding in rice country had to die in a long line of trash that needed to be thrown out. This information is most interesting, said Orochimaru, as he read over the report of the Sandaime Tsuchikage being assassinated in his office several days ago, and right in front of the man's own granddaughter no less. If the simple fact everyone in Iowa had collapsed on the ground from the invisible weight that hit moments earlier, the woman would have been charged with treason in assisting in the old man's death. It was also interesting how the two Jinchuriki that members of the Akatsuki were after had been missing before then had come to light and made the snake Sanin curious as to where they had gone. It wasn't that he liked Jinchuriki, as the Kyuubi Jinchuriki had given him more than enough trouble before Tsunade had surprised him in killing the brat, and the last thing Orochimaru wanted was to deal with two of them with the combined strength to equal the Kyuubi's tailed strength. It is indeed Orochimaru-sama. From what intelligence we can gather, two members of the Akatsuki, Sasori of the Red Sands, and Deidara formerly of Iowa were killed while in Suna going after the cage. Apparently, this Ulquiorra Schiffer is a man that has a blank look on his face that rivals Uchiha Itachi, and wields what many consider to be unnatural powers, on account of him apparently being the source of that invisible weight that hit Iowa, said Kabuto seeing Orochimaru smile an evil smile at the prospect of a new body to call his own. I want this Ulquiorra Schiffer recruited to our side Kabuto. At least, for the moment he will be recruited, and then later I will turn him into my new body, said Orochimaru, as he saw the possibilities with this man's body, and wanted to use it to bring the elemental countries to their knees. I'll have teams prepared to find him Orochimaru-sama, said Kabuto before the feeling an incredible weight hit him with enough force to hit face first into the ground. Orochimaru was no better though he had at least fallen to his knees first before the face hit the ground. Explosions rocked the base, screams of pain, agony, and death echoed throughout the underground passageways that got closer with each passing second. With each second, the weight got heavier, the pressure got thicker, and the source of it got closer to the two shinobi formerly of the leaf. A blast of green energy removed the nearby wall, as the individual responsible for it entered the room, and looked down at the two shinobi. Given your level of intelligence, I thought you would have moved on from this country after the leaf learned of your base's general location 3 years ago, and lost the chance to grab Uchiha Sasuke. It seems I overestimated you. I confess, that the level of stupidity shown here by you is simply disappointing to me. I honestly wished you weren't here, in this base of yours, and that I would have to actually work harder if only for another day in finding you, said Ulquiorra Schiffer, as he looked from Kabuto to Orochimaru, and just closed his eyes for a second to indicate his disappointment to them since he didn't know how to sigh. It just wasn't in him to show emotions regarding such things. Not yet anyway. You're not human, said Kabuto, finding his body healing ability was the only thing keeping him alive right now. No. I'm not. I'm no more human than Sasori of the Red Sands was after he became a living puppet, said Ulquiorra turning from Orochimaru to Kabuto, as the medic nin's body was constantly breaking, and healing from moving under his spiritual pressure. Then what are you? Said Orochimaru, as he was finding himself more tolerable of it, and was able to stand on his knees. Despair, said Ulquiorra before bringing his foot down on Kabuto's skull and crushed it with ease so all that was left was a blood stain. No way to regenerate. What is your goal in coming after us? Who sent you to do this? What is your purpose for accomplishing what the Sandaime Hokage could not? Said Orochimaru seeing Ulquiorra look at him with a raised eyebrow. There is no goal. There is no purpose. No one sent me to kill you. I just came here to do what your sensei could not, said Ulquiorra grabbing one of Orochimaru's arm and then yanking it right out of its socket with the Sannin screaming out in pain. Bastard. I'll make you suffer for this, said Orochimaru, seeing Ulquiorra Schiffer look at his arm for a second and then crushed it with ease that sent blood everywhere. Unlikely, said Ulquiorra before taking the other arm off in the same painful fashion with the same painful result for Orochimaru. That's what you think, said Orochimaru, as he shot Kusanagi out of his mouth at the Arrancar, but Ulquiorra moved his head slightly to the left, and grabbed the blade with just the tips from two of his fingers. The former Espada wasn't impressed. The last act of a dying coward is to always strike out in fear. That is what you are, Snake Sanin. A weak coward, who is afraid to die, and can't get what he wants in life because of it, said Ulquiorra, seeing Orochimaru glaring at him, and painfully pulled the sword out of the Sanin's mouth with blood now running out of it in the process. How is it you know so about me when everyone else in the elemental countries knows nothing about you? Said Orochimaru, seeing Ulquiorra looking the Kusanagi blade over for a second before looking back at him. Human curiosity. Such a strange thing. Still, if you must know at least one thing about me, it's that I wish you had killed Senju Tsunade 3 years ago with this sword when your arms were just as useless to you as they are now, and put that piece of female trash out of her misery, said Ulquiorra, seeing Orochimaru's eyes narrow when looking at his green ones to no doubt remember if they had crossed paths 3 years prior. How do you know that? Only the people in that fight knew of such a specific detail and you aren't one of them. Said Orochimaru, seeing Ulquiorra's eyebrow rise yet again. Are you certain? Look closer. See if I have a familiar look to my face. Perhaps in my eyes. Said Ulquiorra, seeing Orochimaru trying even harder now to remember him, but it was clear the Sanin's memory was getting a blank, and couldn't see the Arrancar in that place 3 years ago. The Snake Sanin would have remembered someone like Ulquiorra Schiffer back then. I don't see it, said Orochimaru, hearing Ulquiorra make a noise that sounded like he was disappointed and expecting more from the infamous Snake Sanin. Again, I overestimated you, give your reputation, and set my expectation too high. How sad. I don't really want to spell it out for you, so I will just have to make this more clear so even someone of your intelligence can understand this. 3 years ago, the dead man now lying next to you was hit by one of the jutsus made by the Yondaime Hokage, and I was the one that hit him with it, said Ulquiorra, seeing Orochimaru's eyes narrow for a second and then widen to the maximum level his eyes would allow with shock clear as crystal. It can't be. It can't. You died. My spies reported your death within the hour of Sasuke performing the execution himself. Said Orochimaru, not believing that the Kyuubi brat was this inhuman thing before him. I know. I was there when your prized Uchiha killed me. While I can no feel the emotion anymore since becoming what you now see before you, I do remember I felt some form of satisfaction in denying the Uchiha what he wanted from my death, and knowing he would never achieve it through me, said Ulquiorra, knowing that only the memories of his past life were the only things that allowed him to understand what certain emotions were. Then, what are you? What have you become upon your death? Said Orochimaru before Ulquiorra simply point an index finger at him and a small ball covering the tip of that finger quickly appeared. I told you before, Orochimaru of the Sanin. I am despair. To be more accurate, I am your despair along with the rest of your former teammates who will be joining you in the near future. Sero. Said Ulquiorra, as he fired the Sero right where Orochimaru's heart was, and left a hole in his chest. Looking around, the Arrancar went to the table in the room, and saw different reports filled with detailed information regarding the world. Nothing of noticeable interest in the first couple of pages to the former Espada, since most spies reported about bodies to be turned into Orochimaru's potential vessels in the future. What did catch Ulquiorra's eyes was an intelligence report from an unnamed spy in Konoha informing Orochimaru about Team 7 planning to meet with Kabuto under the means of impersonating Sasori of the Red Sands at a secret location acquired thanks to Jiraiya's spy network, in the hopes the news of Suna's greatest puppet master being dead had not reached the Sanin. If Ulquiorra had the muscle power to smirk at this moment, he would have done it right there, as he had an idea on how to make himself known to the Leaf, and further bring them into despair like he planned. They planned to meet Kabuto within the hour in the hopes of capturing the medic Nin in order to gather information on or following him to Orochimaru's exact location. They would soon be in for quite the surprise. With Team 7. Stay sharp, team. Captain Yamato is going to require your help in the event this meeting goes bad for us, said Kakashi into his headset to the rest of the team. Do you think Kabuto will show up? I mean, word could have reached him about Sasori being dead, and already preparing a trap for us, said Sakura into her headset. Possibly. Best case scenario, Yamato convinces Kabuto that Sasori escaped Suna, and the only thing destroyed there was a puppet. The worst case scenario is Kabuto doesn't buy it and we fight him for the information on Orochimaru. Don't hold back on him if that happens. His skill are on par with my own, said Kakashi, knowing Kabuto wasn't someone you could just take down easily and had to fight with extreme caution. The young medic nin knew the human body well and knew how to cripple it with ease. Quiet. Someone's coming, said Yamato in his Sasori disguise at the shadowy figure walking towards him on the other side of the bridge. Only for his and the others in hiding to stare wide-eyed in surprise that the figure heading their way was not Kabuto. No. It couldn't be. How? Thought Kakashi, as he saw the figure heading towards him, and made him extremely nervous. What's he doing here? Said Sasuke angrily at seeing the figure casually walk towards Yamato without giving anything away on his face. We need to abort. That guy could kill Captain Yamato just for the disguise alone, said Sakura, knowing Ulquiorra could be convinced it was the real Sasori and just kill the man behind the impersonation just to make sure. We can't. Yamato, play it out like you survived, and don't wish to engage the man in a fight, said Kakashi, knowing they had to play this just right. What about us? Said Sasuke with his voice clearly indicating the Uchiha was itching for a fight. Be ready to move in and get Yamato out of there. Sigh. Get the brush, paper, and ink ready to make some really nasty creatures should this goes bad, said Kakashi, knowing the boys' drawing gave them temporary numbers they would need to hold off the enemy. I'm ready, said Sai, knowing time was of the essence in making such drawings and then bringing them to life. Greetings Ulquiorra-san. I did not expect to see you again so soon, said Sasori, while Ulquiorra just walked towards him with the emotionless expression on his face. Do you take me for a full leaf shinobi? Said Ulquiorra while staring at the fake man in front of him. What are you talking about? I'm not a leaf shinobi, said Sasori, seeing Ulquiorra look past his body for a brief second and then turn his gaze back. You think I cannot tell the difference between the real Sasori and a fake? If I could feel emotions, I'd most likely be insulted, and have a strong urge to kill you, said Ulquiorra, as he saw the fake Sasori back up slightly, and looking a tad frightened. I don't want to fight you Ulquiorra-san. Can't we just let bygones be bygones and just be strangers in passing? Said Sasori, in the hopes of diffusing this situation from spiraling out of control. If you were the real Sasori, I would have killed you instantly like I did when the two of us met in Suna, and continued walking on. The fact you are just a fake is the only reason I don't do what I did to the real puppet master and make sure the small audience behind you understands the severity of their actions, said Ulquiorra, seeing Sasori take another step back. As I said, I am not here to start a fight with you, and wish to be left to my own devices regarding my reasons for being in Rice Country, said Sasori, seeing Ulquiorra staring at him with those soulless green eyes, and it was scaring Yamato something fierce. You mean your mission to subdue Kabuto in order to learn Orochimaru's location, said Ulquiorra, as the Arrancar sounded like he was simply stating a fact, and saw Sasori jump back in shock. You know, said Sasori, seeing Ulquiorra nod once to the question. Orochimaru has known about your mission for some time. His spies in Konoha have not all been expunged from your trash-infested village and knew of your mission to seek out Kabuto to learn of his whereabouts, said Ulquiorra before Team 7 and their sensei came out ready to fight. So you work for Orochimaru now. What are you? His son or something? You have the pale skin and freaky eyes, so the chances are pretty good, said Sakura, seeing Ulquiorra narrow his eyes slight fraction at her words, with the only way to notice being if you were mere inch from his face to see it. His son. You actually think I'm related to such a weak human? Such an insulting group of human trash standing you are, said Ulquiorra, as he saw them tense at his words, and wondered what else they were going to accuse him of being. If you're not in league with Orochimaru, then how did you know that he knew about this mission? Said Sasuke with his Sharingan eyes now active. I thought it would have been obvious given my already impressive track record when it came to fighting missing nin of this world. I killed Orochimaru of the Sannin and his subordinate Kabuto not that long ago, said Ulquiorra calmly while seeing the shocked reactions to the Sannin's death. Liar. Said Sasuke, as he wanted to fight, and kill them to further prove his strength in order to advance his goal of killing Itachi. I don't lie. Lies only numb a person's pain. Numb a person's emptiness. Numb a person's despair. The truth is the most powerful weapon in the world. People are too afraid to use it out of some pitiful sense of morality to the point where they lose the ability to speak the truth at all. Ironic really. Still, if you need further proof outside of my words, then look at this, and decide for yourself in whether I'm speaking the truth, or simply telling you a lie, said Ulquiorra, as he drew Kusanagi from within his trench coat while keeping the hole in his chest from being seen, and just threw the weapon in an underhanded throw so it landed in between them in the middle of the bridge. Is that really Kusanagi? The sword that killed the Sandaime Hokage? Said Sakura, as she had heard how Orochimaru used the blade, and would have killed the old man had he not given his own life to weaken his former student. It is. Now do you see? Why numb your pain and despair with lies? The truth is far more terrifying and painful than any lie could be. When I say something, I speak the truth, and I will do it. If I say you are trash, then it is the truth. If I say I am stronger than any of you could ever be in 1,000 years, it is the truth. If I say you are going to one day die at my hands, then it is the truth, said Ulquiorra, seeing the group back away from him in some involuntary act of fear. So what now? Are you going to try and kill us here? Said Kakashi, wishing to get some kind of key emotional reading on this guy. No. Why should I kill you now? Not when you can bring further despair to the leaf by reporting back to your trash of a female Hokage, said Ulquiorra, seeing them seethe in loathing at his words. Sexist pig, said Sakura, shaking her fist at him. You seem to have misunderstood me. Your Hokage isn't trash because she's female. She is trash because she is trash. Trash does not recognize gender. You are trash just as your sensei is trash, and the same can be said about the Uchiha along with these two right here beside him, said Ulquiorra, seeing them shocked once more at his words. So everyone is trash except for you, said Sasuke, while wondering why those words made him want to go down memory lane. No. Almost everyone. There is a difference, said Ulquiorra casually, seeing them angry at his words once more. Bastard, said Sasuke, getting ready to create the Chidori to finish this guy in one shot, but Kakashi stopped, and restrained him slightly. Sasuke, no. You're strong, but not that strong, and we need to report to the Hokage about him. There will be another time and place for this. But not now, said Kakashi, seeing the Uchiha snarl at Ulquiorra, but conceded all the same, and obeyed the Junin's command. Before you go, I have a message for your Hokage, and I want you all to pay attention because I'm only going to say it once, said Ulquiorra, seeing the Leaf team look at him now with curiosity. What's the message? Said Sakura, before an intense pressure hit them all and they fell down hard while Ulquiorra went to pick up Kusanagi. Tell your Hokage, her godson she betrayed 3 years ago wishes to show Konoha the meaning of despair, said Ulquiorra before walking away from them. Godson. No. It couldn't be, thought Kakashi, while the other of the original Team 7 could only open their eyes wide in shock. Naruto, said Sakura, calling out to the Arrancar and making the former Espada stop for a second. You remembered the name I had when alive, I see. I would have thought that you of all people would have forgotten about it within 3 minutes after my death. No doubt, you only remember it to insult me for my failures in life and to further enhance the Uchiha's supposed greatness, said Ulquiorra, seeing the girl tense slightly and knew he was correct in his assumption of her. How are you alive? I killed you. Your body was burned after I stabbed you through the chest with my Chidori, said Sasuke, knowing this might be his second chance to gain the next level of his eyes through his former loser of a teammate. You seem to be under the assumption I am human. I am not, said Ulquiorra while he just stared at the trash on the ground. Then what are you? Tell us, said Kakashi, staring into the emotionless eyes of the Arrancar before him. I keep telling you. I am despair. I am emptiness. All that you know and all that is will come to know me is the embodiment of these things, said Ulquiorra, walking away again before stopping, as if in thought for a second, and turned back to look at the group for a moment with calculating eyes. And raised his right hand before pointing his index finger at them with the green orb the size of the fingertip forming. Wait. You said you wanted us to live to report to the Hokage, said Kakashi, trying to move and possibly shield 2 of his former students. I did say that, but I also know your Hokage needs to take me seriously, and actions have always proven to be louder than words. Sero, said Ulquiorra before firing his line of green energy not at Sakura, not at Kakashi, not even Sasuke, or the pale-skinned boy that had a fake smile on his face. He aimed it at Yamato, who was still in his fake Sasori disguise, and was obliterated from entirely. Captain Yamato, said Sakura, as she could only see a fraction of what happened, but what the girl saw was enough to scare her down to the very core of her being, and knew this person claiming to be Naruto was in fact serious about killing them. Tell the Senju you trust so much that she owes her godson a very big debt, in the form of her life, said Ulquiorra before walking away and releasing the spiritual pressure that kept them pinned down. This can't be happening, said Sakura slowly getting off the ground and looked like she was ready to freak out. It is. We need to report to the Hokage fast, said Kakashi knowing that Ulquiorra could change his mind and kill them all. When I see you next time loser, I will kill you, and get what I want. Thought Sasuke, as he vowed to kill the loser a second time, and when he did, the next level to the Sharingan would finally be his. With Ulquiorra, the former Espada looked at the base Orochimaru resided in when alive and still did with his body no doubt sprouting maggots if given enough time to let that happen. When the Sannin died, Ulquiorra knew the man was going to hell, as that is where souls like his went, and Ulquiorra preferred it that way. Even if by some chance Orochimaru became a hollow, the man would be ranked upon the weaker ones, and most likely be killed shortly after arriving. The same would no doubt be said for Kabuto too. Still, the base the two rotting bodies were in could cause problems if left to be found by some would-be villains seeking to take up where Orochimaru left off. That wouldn't do at all. Pointing his hand at the ground where the mass of the underground base was located, Ulquiorra Schiffer formed a much bigger Sero than he had before now, using some of his blood to make this Sero much more powerful than its original version, and calculated the overall backlash in general this attack would no doubt cause when unleashed. Aizen, for all his reasons, had always ordered the Espada show restraint when using this type of attack when accounting for the overall devastation this would cause, and had trusted that Ulquiorra at the very least would show the necessary restraint with his power the other Espada could aspire to learning. Gran Rey Sero, said Ulquiorra, as he unleashed the attack on the base, and watched the entire vastness of the area became nothing more than a wasteland that no life could grow from. The aftershock of the world being hit by such power shook the planet to its foundation, as the Arrancar knew this would attract a great deal amount of attention, and Ulquiorra did not want the snoopers to see him here. Let the fools that came report to their masters, as it was their job, and analyze this turn of events their world just went through. Right now, Ulquiorra was feeling hungry after using so much of his power, and while he was an Arrancar the former Espada was also alive with alive bodies needing food. He couldn't help but wonder how the food in Wave Country tasted since he was last there. Thanks for listening do hope you enjoy if you guys enjoyed if you want the next part of this video like, subscribe and comment down below and turn on the bell notifications and also check out the other videos that has created and enjoy see you in the next video peace.